conversations and things. Learn stuff about your neighbors that will amaze. We promise if you sit with us a bit, you might be interested in some of this shit.
Is it just this, or?
It goes on just a little bit more. Keep going. See, just do it. You're good. Live from Low Life Galleries in beautiful Collinwood, Ohio, it's Waterloo Conversations with your host, Dave Desimone.
Hello and welcome to the music. Oh, sorry. Hi and welcome to Waterloo Conversations. My name is Dave and tonight's guest here is Jacob Wesley Lang. Jacob, welcome.
Thank you.
So we were just talking about politics, but I really wanted to talk to you about your super confident cycle. So what do we got?
It's a set of 7 paper stickers that I made up that incorporate a few images that I've made, where I'm freezing watercolor paint into ice cubes.
What gave you the idea of freezing?
I had seen Andy Goldsworthy piece where he was taking snowballs and packing dirt with them and then melting them on large sheets of paper. And the idea sort of appealed to me. And I took some watercolor paints and mixed them with water and froze them up into ice cubes, and then would take the ice cubes and set them on a large sheet of paper and would melt them. And during the melting process, I would move the paper and you would get organic shapes that would come out of it. So, you know, the piece would be created over the 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever it took for the ice cube to actually melt.
Now, have you ever seen any of Goldsworthy's pieces live, like in person? I've got a book that has some of these things that he does, and the ones with the snow are the most interesting because they're so temporary. I've seen one where he's taken an unbelievably large collection of leaves that he must have picked up within hours. And there are, in color, it goes from like yellow to red, and it's like this beautiful cross palette of all the hues of fall. And he'll have it in this giant metal, maybe the forests in the background. And you know that that took a ton of just meticulous time, and that it's probably going to be gone in 3 or 4 days because it's so temporary.
Well, and that's part of it. I mean, the temporal nature of the things that he's doing, and that, you know, I know with him that he'll go back over a series of days or a series of time and take photographs as the pieces, you know, disintegrate or as they become something else, as the elements or the weather or whatnot. You know,
so back to your pieces. How did you know when it was the right time to use the actual design, the organic shape?
I mean, I think that it's an intuitive process. And it's something where you just get a sense of the material and how it's going, and, you know, allowing the shape to evolve out of whatever period of time it takes to work on it.
And these are really, really, I mean, they're more than ink blobs when you look at them. And we really aren't going to be able to show them for anybody, but we'll have to maybe post it on the website or something. But
well, they have a similarity to Rorschach blobs, and I think in many ways they're that. For me, I mean, I think that part of what I'm interested in is creating an object where the viewer has to come to it and figure out what they're looking at. That, you know, the shape is more often than not abstract, and it's up to the viewer to try and create with their own imagination what it is that they're seeing. It's not necessarily something that I'm trying to dictate to them. So it's creating an experience for them, and then, you know, hopefully engaging the piece and allowing them to create their own idea of what's going on there.
Now, have you always worked in abstract, or is this a fairly new phenomenon for you?
Yeah, I mean, most of my stuff is abstract. A lot of it is based in trying to create a process where, you know, the series of events almost becomes a mathematical equation, and all you're doing is plugging different variables into, you know, different stages within the process to see how they, you know, how it'll create something different. And that, for me, is just interesting in, you know, an exploration of the materials, but also creating something that I think that if you gave that equation or that set of actions to somebody else perform, that they would create something that would be, vastly different than what I would do if I'm interested in that, you know, the infinite nature of that process, where it's not just creating something that somebody can look at and say, well, that's something to me, and have it be something different to somebody else, but to allow them to then, you know, if they want to, engage in the same series of events and create something that's going to be completely different from the next person that tries them to the person they're at.
In some ways, what you're describing is, you know, I often think of seeing live music as sort of this triangle of circumstances or events that line up, good, bad, or otherwise. And that those 3 points on the triangle are the band. So in this case, it might be, you know, you're the artist. So you've got the band, you've got the audience, which in your case then would be the viewer. And then what the musical performance has that I think maybe yours hasn't captured is that moment in time, how it all kind of comes together, because when a band's performing, if they're performing in a way that is not, like if the goal isn't to sound just like the record, but that it's a live performance and they're kind of, you know, in the moment, the audience member brings whatever, you know, perspective that they're bringing, and then it kind of comes together and forms this thing for an hour and a half, and then it's gone.
Well, but within that system, I mean, the song becomes the structure there.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, Ansel Adams is the example where his negatives were the score to the orchestra.
Yeah.
And that his printing of the photo of those negatives, you know, then became the performance. And I think within that, there are sort of these separate in different stages where, you know, you create a framework for something great to happen within. And that you can come to it an infinite number of times, and based on what you're feeling at that point in time, create something completely different than if you had been printing it, you know, 5 years prior to that, or even 5 years after, you know.
Now,
before that.
For you, the creation of art, is it a very personal thing, or would it be something that you would be able to do with onlookers?
Yeah, I'm not so much interested in the performance aspect of it. I mean, these pieces where I'm melting the ice cubes on paper, there's an aspect of performance to it, and there's a, you know, sort of a prescribed period of time that'll happen within. But I'm not so much interested in the voyeuristic nature of somebody watching me while I'm doing that,
Right.
because I think that is a personal process, and that is something where I think that I would be too concerned with what was going on outside of, you know, the materials, rather than being
Right.
focused on the creation of the piece itself.
Do you